Thank you. We're very excited to be here. And I am going to first just tell you what we're talking about and then let everyone introduce themselves. So, we're presenting today the art of quality control, ensuring excellence in real-time content. And this is a really fun and interesting topic that we've had lots of conversations about over the last few days. And I think everyone is really starting to think about how we can embrace these tools and these practices and these processes now so that we can make better content. I'm Alex Porter. I'm CEO at ModTech Labs, where we focus on automated optimization and quality assurance for real-time content. So this is right up our alley. And next to me, I have Mr. James Blevins.
Hi, I'm James Blevins. I'm co-founder of Mesh. We do a lot of things in the production pipeline, focusing primarily in virtual production, line producing.
Hi, I'm Joan Webb. I'm the president of Ronin Film Virtual Production. We're a creative company who's been with 2 mega grants with Epic Games. So we've been in the discovery process for 3 years, 4 years now.
Hey, and I'm Tim Porter. I'm the CTO at ModTech Labs, and my background, I spent most of my career in video games, so real-time production, as a technical artist, specifying in device-specific optimization and tools and programming, and then also switched over to movies as a pipeline technical director. So, Alex, do you want to kick it off? We'll get the first question going.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I think is a fundamental here is what is quality assurance versus quality control. So quality assurance, from my perspective, is really looking at creating process and creating within your pipeline and flow of creating a product ways to actually assure that you are creating the highest, best quality. Whereas quality control is you have a final product and you're putting out fires. I know that there's a little bit of both, no matter how you work all of your process, but ultimately the tools in that forefront are going to make a huge difference in being able to deliver effectively, on time, and with the best look.
So a lot of you may work off of production templates. I mean, all of these productions, and I do work in media and entertainment, mostly on the sort of long form side, where things have to happen very, very fast. These workflows, you'll really do the production a real big favor if, along with the entire process, you find the quality control points in your pipeline and you actually place them upon your workflow diagram. It's really simple to do. You do a quality control pass, and it just informs everyone that, here there be dragons. This is where you have to watch out, where you might actually lose something along the way. And it's really critical to be thinking about quality control way before your first day of shooting.
Well, I would say for us, quality control is throughout the entire process. We do things a little differently. We're probably one of the only teams that has a director moving through every step of the VAD process, building the assets. So nothing is ever left undone for us. So our quality control is minute to minute. It's not letting the artists do their work and then we come back and speculate on it. We are hands-on with them for every step. So that's how we proceed.
So at this company, I do a lot of quality assurance. So we have AI algorithms to make sure that assets as they're going through are going to have the highest quality and that they always meet the specs that we're currently looking for. But when I worked in games, I also worked over with the QA team. And we would go ahead and make sure that there were tools and toys that they could utilize to go ahead and check things like performance, ensuring that when it was going to go onto the final device, that it was actually going to run at frame rate. Nobody wants a game that's really slow and slogs and everything like that. But I also have a very interesting story. So my career, I started very heavily at major studios in Austin, Texas. And so if anybody knows the old Origin studios, that would be Ultima Online, and things like that. And some of the fun stories I heard about Wing Commander was that they had a producer who was very, very, very particular. And the way that they got around his particularity was they would put in little red herrings And so they would go ahead and like, oh, we'll put in pictures of people's children in there, or like, oh, there's a parrot. Why is there a parrot? And you go, oh yeah, everything's great. Just take out the parrot, and get that out of there. And that's something when I owned my own studio, we started doing, is because everybody wants that final vision in there. So at times it can be a perceptual thing. As much as you think that your final product is done, when it comes to quality control, it still can be in the eye of the beholder.
How long did you have to get through your quality assurance in the gaming world?
Oh man, when you're talking about, it depends. If we're talking about Gold Master, you normally got like a day to 2 days to be able to go ahead and have it finally done. But as far as like if we're doing QA, it's every single day there'd be a new build, and then you'd have the team come up and they're like, hey, take a look at this, and you'd have at times. Like when I worked at EA, there'd be rooms and rooms and rooms of people playing the game over and over and over
So
again.
many man hours.
So many man hours.
Right. Okay. So it's really, really important.
Is extremely important, and if we can automate it, that's
Yeah.
probably the best way.
That was actually the thing I was going to add to it is not only is it it's currently more of a people heavy thing, but you have to have the right kind of people too, because your attention to detail to catch these quality nuances, whether it is, a slow, section of, the playback, or whether it is a parrot, or whether it is something else completely. You have to have the type of person that not only notices those little nuances, but can also document how they made it happen. And so there's a lot of interesting things around this sort of quality control and quality assurance process that are really subjective, is what I'll say. As just as Tim mentioned, it could just be a visual subjectivity, but that is a really challenging thing when you're trying to deliver something to spec on time and, really be able to deliver consistently.
So that's the thing, right? So when we talk about quality control, you're actually reflecting off of a standard, something declared, right? And so in the world of games, we actually most of those things are standardized. We know what the frame is. We have the look of the thing. In virtual production, every single one of these stages is it operates differently, right?
Yes.
And so we have less time to build in quality assurance. In advertising, we've got 2 weeks. In long form, you have a bit more time, but there's way more quality control in these pipelines than there is time for quality assurance.
I don't know. And here's an interesting kind of flip on that. If anybody's done mobile development, at the time we were doing mobile development, we had over 150 SKUs that we were going for just Android. So iOS is great because you got like 4 phones. But Android, you're just like, I don't know, does it work on some like one that's made in this little,
right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times it feels like that. And so when we build our tools and our automated systems, I still have that in mind.
Right.
So like, how can you be like, because it's a shotgun approach. I don't even know if it's even, that is the ringing of the gods. And so sometimes it's
We have some quality control.
right. Oops. Yeah, and so that's definitely something that I work on often because it's not even like a shotgun approach. It's like a cannonball, like shoving what you can, kind of like splatter.
Well, I guess that's right. I guess we only have one target, right?
Yeah.
But each target is different.
Yeah.
I can agree.
But I can't tell you how nice it is to have tools in the pipeline that will actually alert you of a thing that's wrong. It's built into the tool, and will tell you when something is illegal or out of spec. Because you've declared it, because you know what your target is. And that's the role of the virtual art department, is to make sure, they're the quality control, to make sure that the product gets to the wall or whatever the virtual production environment is in spec. And so we're seeing some of those tools. You make tools that do this.
True
Yes.
story.
Yes.
Yeah, the way that Mod has focused our tool set is really around being able to create that spec for each individual stage, so that we can benchmark the content playback for each stage. So we have the stage side, and then we have the content side. And on the content side, we scroll through the scene. It's an Unreal plugin, since mostly everyone is using Unreal. I'm like, it is what it is.
I think Unity got the memo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm true. I'm like, they're
have
coming
that
out with a
Weta
tool set.
thing?
They're coming out with a tool set. It's fine.
Okay. All
They'll be
right.
there.
All right. Okay.
Eventually.
So it scrolls through the scene and it actually produces a list of assets that can be optimized. The end user chooses what to optimize, and then you push it to the mod node. Mod node does the automated optimization and then puts it back into the scene.
Let me explain what that means to me as a
Yes.
post supervisor, right? So a vendor has to deliver me a thing, and I have to make sure that that thing gets from point A to point B on time and in spec. And it really is great if I can immediately ingest what it is they're delivering, in this case, an Unreal project, right, and be alerted that, oh, excuse me, but we couldn't help but notice that this texture is actually in 10-bit and it's throwing it way out of spec. Here's a yellow flag, right? That allows me to immediately reject it, point to the thing that's a problem, or if it's a list of things, and then not let it into the building, because I don't have time to figure out what's missing, or you know, their tool, the Unreal plugin, actually, it's a sort of automatic occlusion, decimation is what it is, without avoiding occlusion, which is. It just basically, yeah, exactly. So it's something that you send off to India to do manually by a bunch of people, but they do it automatically. And so it does give you the option to say, yeah, there's this problem. Do you want me to fix it? It's that level of quality control that I think is really going to drive things forward, because not only do I see it, but I understand it in such a way that I understand how to fix it if you want me to.
Well, the other piece I'll add is that, there's a huge difference between what you're seeing on your 17-inch monitor and what goes on a 100-foot wall, right? There's a visual, perceptive nature that we all have. We all know what looks good and what doesn't look good and what we're trying to achieve. And so part of the process that we are also adding in is an algorithm that will specifically find those points that could be in contention for that visual acuity on the wall to make sure that they can be addressed before you ever put it on a wall. So you don't actually have to see it up there to know that these things should be fixed. Yeah. Thank you.
We often, when we're working on projects, I insist, especially when we're building a virtual art department, we did this for Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, that you come as close to a playback machine within the virtual art department that emulates the sort of thing
Yes.
that's driving the wall, because, of course, the first thing that you're worried about is, can I match frames per second, which is like one of the first death knells of a project that's too heavy.
So the question that we have behind us here is actually, what does real-time content change versus other types of content? How would you say that really affects, the process and makes it different?
You want to take it?
I would like.
You want to take it, John?
I think it really, this is a sensitive subject, because when you've worked on AAA products, it's always about delivering the best. And when we talk about real time, it gets a little bit of sneered at, because it's a different conversation about delivering what is the best for that moment, right? And it's a conversation that can be misconstrued as what is good enough. And that is true, but the moment demands different things. And especially when you're working in these environments, to deliver into these environments, knowing that you're going to take some of these elements and go into post, where you have all the time in the world to render and feed a visual effects pipeline, there is a much more nuanced conversation about quality, especially when using VFX assets in here, to say, yeah, I get it. You want another 3 days to really get the shine off of those vines that are 200 feet in the background, but I'm telling you, it's good enough. And so those are subjective quality control conversations. But I do think that also the fact that you have so little time to deliver, it's really important to get quality control as far upstream as you can.
Yeah, and subjective. I guess for us, a lot of our projects are our own, although we do work with other film directors, etc. So there's a difference in doing your own projects versus delivering to another client, because subjective opinions, ideas are then not our own. And so we have to, rely on the client and what works for them. And lately, we've worked on the wall a ton, but lately we've been working more in engine because we're addressing indie films and their budgets, and it works better for them. But so it depends on where that final imagery is going. Is it coming out of the engine? Is it going on the wall? And a lot of things don't really have to be photoreal because you're focusing on the person and the wall's a blur. So for the most part, it's not as big a deal. It depends on the specific shot that you're doing and what you have to pull off.
Can I continue on that?
Yes.
So here we are. We're very 16 by 9 centric, right? We're dealing with frame stuff, but to your point, 140 different phones. You've got a world where the image is kind of cool, but depth is also very, very cool, right? And so we're living in a world where good enough might be, I don't care if the effect actually looks real. I just want to see it in real time on me. That's where quality control is kind of we're moving more into like the efficacy of an effect, right? Take a look at everything you see that it's on the edge in like Snapchat, those sorts of odd filters that a $2 billion company can sort of make appear out of thin air. Applying to some of those effects like depth type solutions, allowing you to do all sorts of things that are just around the corner. They have nothing to do with what Lucasfilm is winning Oscars for, right? So it's a different quality control conversation that has to do with different assets, and really it comes down to the data and how you're going to manage that data. So every workflow diagram should have QC points, even though if you don't know exactly what those QC points are going to be, they could be small, they could be big, and there might be things you don't know how to QC yet.
No, that's really true. And we have an entire industry, if you think about it, it's going from what we say 60 frames a month to 60 frames a second. You have all the time in the world to go ahead and pre-render. You have as many servers and as many systems that you can go ahead and throw it at it. That's not exactly the same that's true for real-time production. And so the big thing, like I always tell people, when you're talking about optimization, right now the industry is very GPU heavy, and so they're trying to figure out the whole GPU side of things. As soon as the industry figures that out, the one thing that you do realize, it's a balancing game. And there are 4 different areas that you end up having to balance in. You have CPU, RAM, GPU, and then space, drive space, or how quickly or how much you can stream in and out as you're going along in scenes. And I would liken it to trying to balance a bowling pin on top of a tack that's riding on a train, because it's continuing to move throughout, and each shot is a little bit different. So if you have a shot that you're trying to do and then, suddenly let's go ahead and do a truck through it, that's a totally different camera set and a different optimization scheme than you have for if I'm going to go ahead and do a 4-person cameo. And that is such a difference that the industry has to realize. You just can't make this one cool asset that's wonderful, and then we're going to pre-render it because why? That's the same asset that we have from scene to scene to scene. And that makes it to where you end up having to focus on where you're playing it back, because every single stage is a little bit different, much more importantly.
They're very different, actually. Because everybody has a different wall, a different pixel pitch, different cameras, different cranes, dollies, your imagery. So it's something that you really have to consider, all the aspects. What's that?
She actually has a question.
We have a question.
Okay.
I have a mic here.
Color can be your
Another
most.
mic?
Yeah.
We have another
difficult
mic if you could ask it.
pain
in,
points.
please.
What's your biggest pain point with respect to what you just were talking about the variation of different, what do you need to, I know you need to check a long list of things. Is color the thing that is?
Well, color is important, but, I don't want to say this because it may not resonate with everybody, but I don't feel that we really have a lot of pain points because we pre-plan. I'll tell you that we actually were doing a commercial with the ad agency, and because we had done really hard pre-viz, pre-tech, when we came to the shoot day, I've never even in college experienced a cinematographer not showing. Actually, he showed 2 hours late. Then he left afterwards. We have no idea why. But because we had prepped so hard, no one, the director and I didn't tell anyone, not the agency, not the rest of the crew. So no one realized our cinematographer was gone the whole day. That was a local in Florida. It was not who we work with, our regular. So I won't,
I will be the counterpoint to that and say that you are probably an outlier in that, and the reason is because the industry does not have enough talent to fill the voids that are currently happening because of the demand. So content creation in and of itself, right, in the real time side of things, is a different beast. Tim already mentioned we do that, 60 frames a month to 60 frames a second line.
Right.
And I think that one of the things that people are forgetting is that it's not just virtual production. It's also games, it's also architecture and construction, it's the
Right.
car manufacturers, it's retail, Wayfair's stealing 3D
Transmedia.
modelers. It's all these sort of transmedia use cases. We're not just using it on big screens, we're using it on screens on our face, we're using it on cell phones, we're 3D printing it. And so we're missing a lot of talent in those sort of change agent pieces. And that's one of the reasons that we as a company at Mod focused on some of those pieces so that we can help automate them, make them go faster, make them be more consistent is really what it is. And our goal is to actually superpower the artist, because the creatives that are there have all of the skill and all of this talent, but you know what they don't love? UV wrapping. You know what they don't love? Mesh decimation.
Right.
And these like grindy technical things that are not creative. It's a lot of hours. So
Yeah.
that's one of the places that I
Well-
think is a
well,
good opportunity.
The bigger place that's a lot of hours is training the artists,
Yes.
because we brought our artists back in 2019 out of the gaming industry, and they didn't understand filmmaking at all. So that was a whole training ground. Now we've been working with them 5 years, and they are really superior in their work. However, I'll state this: our small team is mighty and very agile and very capable of a lot. It surprises me every day what our little team can accomplish. However, we're looking at a few different projects coming up simultaneously right now, and the idea of being able to incorporate like mod tech to help our small team expand without having to go out and train other people to bring them in. Now, certainly there are teams out there and people and CG Pro and companies like that that are training this next round of talent, which will help us all. But at this point, it is beneficial to have AI incorporated. It is incorporated, even if you don't think you're using AI. If you're just using Unreal, you're using AI. There's AI all in there. So, that's where we find it will help a team like us, is to help with the mundane and to get through things faster, because we focus on artistry, and it will allow for us to continue to be artists and to help render, things that are not so exciting in between. So,
Next question.
I think we might have just a couple of minutes for one more question, possibly, but we have to be fast. All right. So what AI tools and techniques are most effective for quality and real-time content? Tim, do you want to
Sure,
just do a
I can
quick,
take that one off.
quick blitz?
So there's a lot of visual things under computer vision that are extremely helpful to go ahead and make sure that you maintain quality. The other thing is actually having very good metrics around what your systems are capable of. And as much as people can eyeball it and go, well, we're about 2 million polygons and we can kind of do these things, that's something that's much better left to an autoencoder or, an AI system just in general, to be able to go ahead and make sure that as you're moving along, you end up having these very quantifiable metrics. It knows, because I've run X before, that I'm going to get a Y result. And in our specific case, you can get deep enough to where it understands, I run X on this system, I run Y on a different system, and then that means that I will be able to run on this project on that system at a consistent frame rate. So it doesn't even need to actually understand what that project is. It doesn't even need to actually have ever played with it. It will automatically know what the perceived frame rate or the illusionated frame rate will end up being. So those are some really good places to kind of go in. That way you can end up getting the best quality results because you don't want to leave stuff on the table, but you definitely don't want to be under as well. So it's always fun.
I'll just briefly add, looking at nerfs, looking at GANs, looking at, things that are readily available, especially on the consumer side. Those are great for previs. There's a lot of cool tools out there that aren't necessarily industry specific yet. I've seen, some great releases of tools that are being more focused into the industry, but there's an awesome opportunity for people to embrace and experiment with these things with almost like there's no loss, like except for time. And at that point, just like, be an inventor. Have fun. Do you have any closing thoughts?
We're certainly having fun.
Absolutely.
We are. We're excited, actually, all the time.
Whole new
Truly.
world.
I'm gonna sing for us. Turning it into karaoke. Okay, well, thank you for your time. Let's see if we
It's
have
been
any other
great.
questions in the audience at this time. Any questions?
Nothing brings them in like quality
You
assurance.
have a question?
Yay.
Yay!
You, sir. You, sir, please come.
We've got a mic for you, sir.
Lightsabers.
Yeah, come on over. Come on
So
over.
I can give you a fun story about them.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Carlos. I was curious what possible solutions you may have if a creator wanted to create a lightsaber scene with like leaving scorch marks or dismemberments, or with a laser blaster like punching holes through an enemy and whatnot.
I mean, so we can go all the way back to the way that lightsabers were originally made, and I can tell you this is a pretty fun and interesting idea. They're all done flat. So that was good. That was good. They're actually done all straight in post. So it's not actually a three-dimensional asset that's done. But often you end up getting kind of a mocap solution that's on there. So it's like a fake plastic. And so that's that. But if you want things like scorch marks and burn marks, go on to the Unreal Store. There's plenty of like scorch marks and burn marks. Remember, video games, we like blowing people up.
Have you downloaded UEFN yet?
Yeah.
UEFN. Do you by any chance play Fortnite? Okay. Go play Fortnite and grab UEFN, and you will have a whole new world opened up to you that you can invite your friends to. And you can build 3D worlds. I think there's some lightsabers in there.
Yeah, we can give them lightsabers.
Yeah,
Blow
Fortnite.
people up,
UEFN is Fortnite. It's the Fortnite creator platform.
Yeah.
And there are a few other good asset stores. There are many good asset stores, but another one is Fab, Sketchfab. That's another good asset store.
Bash one. Yeah.
Kit Bash.
Get Bash is good.
I'm like depends on what you're looking for. There's lots
Mega
of good
Scans is good.
assets out there. Mega scans.
No blown up people, I don't think.
Bring your credit card.
Thank you.
Thank you.